very beautiful Sabbath, blessed new moon, the first day of the month Kislev in the Bible. I'd like to welcome you all, keeping the new moon, and may God bless you all for keeping his appointed times. And we are going to continue studying the judgment of the living as we left it the previous study. And today, when we left it last time, we had approached a time where David used one stone out of picking 5 stones. He picked 5 stones, put them in the bag, and slew Goliath by 1 stone. Now we want to understand this prophecy correctly, because it's not just a story for you to read for the children that this is what happened without a significance out of it. So what are we going to understand from this story? We go to tract 8, 59.1. Let us read and understand about these 5 stones, right?
The 5 smooth stones in David's bag,
Right.
with one of which he slew Goliath, typify the 5-fold power in the antitypical shepherd's bag, the Bible.
Which one is the shepherd bag? It's the Bible. That's the shepherd bag. You understand? That's the bag which always was with David. And he picked the 5 stones and put in the bag. And the bag, now we know, is the Bible. Now let's hear more.
With one part of which God shall today smite the beast and his image.
Right. So one part of the stone, God is going to use one part of the stone to smite the beast
And the image. Amen.
and its image. We know in Revelation 13, we have a beast and its image. And this is God is going to use one stone out of the 5. But what are these 5? Let's hear more.
With one part of which God shall today smite the beast and his image, the nations,
Right.
the antitypical Goliath. And since we know that it is by his word, in the form of a message, that he shall smite the nations.
What is in the bag?
A message.
We know the bag is the bag represents the Bible. But what did God put in the bag? He put 5 stones. What are these 5 stones? 5 messages. We have 5 messages, which start from Matthew chapter 20, verse 1 up to the end. You find that there was 5 typical messages. These messages are going to be used by God. They are in the bag already. But as they are in the bag, he only preserved 1 stone, the last stone, which is going to smite Goliath, the mark of the beast and its image. Now, as we see these 5 stones, these are the 5 messages. When you go to Matthew chapter 20, you find there are some who said, let's just have a quick run to Matthew chapter 20 to understand which 5 messages are there, which are represented by 5 stones. But David used the 5 stones. He put the 5 stones in the bag, which is the Bible. The Bible contains 5 messages. But with 1 stone, he's going to smite the image of the beast. Then we know there are 5 calls in the Bible, 5 messages given. But let's go to through Matthew chapter 20, verse 1. Let's hear.
Verse 1. For the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder.
Right.
Which,
so this is what God is talking about, the kingdom of heaven. He's not talking about anything else, but he's talking about the kingdom which we are preaching. We are preaching the judgment for the living, which is going to usher in the kingdom. But what is it? The kingdom, what is it like? Let's hear the parable which Christ has said. This is the parable which presents the 5 stones which David picked and put in the bag. Let's hear.
For the kingdom of heaven is like unto a man that is an householder,
Right.
which went out early in the morning to hire laborers into his vineyard.
Right.
And when he had agreed with the laborers for a penny a day, he sent them into his vineyard.
Right. So he went to the first laborers And who are the first laborers? If you are all Abraham's seed, who were the first children of Abraham? We know the first, early in the morning, they were the first who were sent by God. Which ones are those? Those who went out with Moses, isn't it? Those were the first ones to be called early in the morning, right? Let's hear.
And he went out about the third hour,
Right.
and saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and said unto them, Go ye also into the vineyard,
Right.
and whatsoever is right I will give you. And they went their way.
So God called Moses in the first hour. What did he give to Moses as a weapon, as a stone? He gave the ceremonial law. Is it true? That's where we find it. Though Abraham was keeping it before the children of Israel went out, he was keeping the statutes. We know that from Genesis chapter 26. We are told clearly he was a statute keeper, which are the first facts. But let's hear from the call of Moses. The very first stone he was given was the ceremonial law. This is what he used in his time. That's the stone he used, the ceremonial law. Now let's hear more.
And said unto them, Go ye also into my vineyard,
Right?
and whatsoever
he
is right.
meets the next one when? At the third hour.
At the third
You
hour.
see, at the third hour, he met the next ones. And what did he say to them?
And he said unto them, Go ye also into the vineyard,
Right.
and whatsoever is right I will give you.
He said the vineyard are the people of God. But what was given a stone. And we saw the very first stone was the ceremonial law which Moses used in his movement. That's the movement which is the ceremonial law, the Aaron's killing the animals and everything. And then the next one, called at the third hour, is the movement which was raised by Christ when he came the first time. But this movement also was given a stone, is it? What was his message? What was his message? People were supposed to accept him as a son of God. But what also was he using? Was he using the same stone? Yes. He actually fulfilled these stones by making sure now he instituted the Lord's Supper. That was a ceremonial law. He instituted the ceremonial law before he died at even, which we get in Patriarchs and Prophets, page 539, gets it clearly that where the Passover lamb was being killed, he instituted the Lord's Supper on the 14th day of the first month. So he was still keeping ceremonial law in his anti-time. He instituted it and gave it to the Christians. That's why we see those who were in the early Christian church, the like of Paul, the like of Peter, the life of all the disciples. They were keeping the day of Pentecost, which was the ceremonial law. They were there keeping the ceremonial law as well. The stone was there in the time of Christ. The first stone we saw is the ceremonial law in the time of Moses. We still see the ceremonial law in the time of the Christian church, but only one thing was removed. This is the animal sacrifice. That was removed. But they still continued. Paul and the disciples, the early Christian church, were still keeping these festivals. Is it true? Yeah. If you want, we can go to the Good News Bible and check on Untitled Chapter 7, verse 25. You find that the beast in the Dark Ages, which is 588 to 1798 AD, in the Christian era, is the one who removed the festivals. Now let's hear from that.
Verse 25.
Right, verse 25.
He will speak against the supreme God.
You see what the beast did? Spoke against the supreme God and what?
And oppress God's people.
Right, this is what he did.
He will try to change their religious laws and festivals.
What did he change? Not one thing. I was debating with a brethren just right now. And I was saying, I did not know these ceremonial laws are supposed to reign in the time of the Christian era. But what time was the Dark Ages? Where the beast was changing the ceremonial system. It was changing the ceremonial laws. And also the religious festivals and the religious laws. What is a festival? Maybe sometimes it's a problem of, grammar or English or what, because you don't know what the festival means it means the feast. So the feasts, we prove they were there in the Dark Ages. And the beast changed not only the 10 Commandments, but also the festivals. So are we together now when you say even Christ's movement, which came at the 3rd hour, was also having the ceremonial law in the Christian era without the animal sacrifices, but the ceremonial law continued. Did you understand? That's another stone, the second stone. Now let's hear from that paragraph you read in Matthew chapter 20.
Again, he went out about the 6th and the 9th hour.
Do you see these two are connected? When it says 6th and the 9th hour, they are connected. Why are they connected? Because the Millerite movement, which came also at the 6th hour, was connected to the Sabbath message from Sister White. Sister White was a student of Miller. So that's why these messages are connected. There is an end there. But when the 1st hour, there was no connection. It was on its own. And then the 3rd hour, it was the early Christian church on its own. But when it came to the 6th and the 9th hour, these are connected. Why? Ellen White was a student to William Miller, and these are together. They are the first Advent. First of all, he was a first Advent reformer, reforming only in the coming of Christ. Advent is the coming of Christ. If you decide to call it your name, that's your problem. But the name Advent only refers to the coming of Christ. And this first day Advent, which is William Miller, still keeping Sunday, which is the first day, is called the first day Advent. It was on the 6th hour. And then after that, we have the 9th hour call, which was Sister White with the Sabbath message in the sanctuary. She only attempted the Sabbath message, but the sanctuary message was left up to A.T. Jones and Wagner, who came in 1888 and was strongly rejected. Did you understand? When we meet tomorrow, which is the Sabbath, tomorrow we will be debating more about how then the sanctuary message was injected after it was rejected in 1888. How does it come about in our time? That's a strong message, that one. That's what we all want to understand. How then, if the message was rejected in 1888, would we just hop in the cloud without that message coming back to us? No, we will see it when we see how it comes back to us after it was rejected and after it was predicted that it will come again, and now is back, how it is back to us before we are hopping in that cloud that you so much love. So here we have this 6th and 9th hour is these two stones. How then did William Miller, expect the coming of Christ in the time of a feast? Why? Why do you think? Were they people with appointed hours? Yes, they were. How would you guess 22 October 1844 is a day of atonement? How would you guess that? That's a feast time, isn't it? The feast is a day of atonement. Do you see the stone was still with them? Do you see that? And Sister White was also given a message on Revelation 14, verse 9, which shows that she was giving a warning for people who will refuse to to change back what the beast had changed in the Dark Ages. What did the beast change? Change the religious laws and festivals. Are there people rejecting the festival? Yes, we have people accepting the 10 Commandments, but rejecting the festivals. That's your warning from Revelation chapter 14, verse 9. If any man worship the beast and his image, whether you accept the Sabbath and the 10 Commandments, and yet the beast changed two things. The beast changed the Sabbath together with the festivals. So whether you say, I at least have taken the 10 Commandments and reject the festivals, you're still swimming in the same boat with those who rejected the Sabbath. So this is where you have to understand clearly what the mark of the beast should be. It says it is more understood at the unrolling of the scroll. And the scroll is unrolling and telling you that the mark of the beast is not only the Sunday laws we are posing about. The mark of the beast is also rejection of the festivals. That's the mark of the beast. Two things were changed in the Dark Ages. Two things should be brought back for you not to worship the beast. Do you understand there? Now here, what is this warning about? That's why she has a full chapter on 537, patriarchs and prophets, on annual feasts. Why? She was attempting the sanctuary laws, which Daniel chapter 8, verse 13 to 14 promised that these, unto 2,300 years, which started in 1844, shall these laws be brought back of the sanctuary be cleansed by bringing these laws back. But we see our brethren in 1888, they rejected the sanctuary message coming with 80 Johns and we're going to give us righteousness by faith. Do you understand? So we have to understand the history and also understand where we are and also understand where we are going. This is why we meet to discuss the present truth. And by it, we will be sealed. And by it, we will enter the pearly gates that we so long to be in. Do you understand? Now here, these 5 stones, we saw the first caller, which was the movement by Moses, and also the second call, which was at the 3rd hour, which was the movement by Christ in the early Christian church. And we also see Sister White together with William Miller on the 6th, which is William Miller, and this 9th hour, which is Sister White. They all have stones. So we now have 4 stones. We are left with the next stone, which becomes the 5th stone, which is our topic today. Do you understand? We are talking about the 5th stone. That's why when you check your hands, you find there are 5 fingers. Right? 5 fingers for the 5 messages, which is from the movement of Moses to our time. And also 5 fingers on the left, which is also the 5 angels' message in Revelation chapter 14. 5 here, 5 there. Then you are safe and sound in the pearly gates. We will enjoy this. When we are worshiping God, He gives us everything. He unrolls everything to His servants, to His children who are being translated, so that they have nothing missing from all the books of the Bible, from the Old Testament to the New Testament. They understand that mysterious book before they enter the pearly gates. Don't you want that? That's a superb, spiritual standard. Do you understand? When you know everything in nitty-gritty, why God had to write about Jacob and Esau, why God had to write about David, why God had to write about Isaac, all these things, then you are nourishing from these Old Testament prophecies while you are in the New Testament period. This is the prophecy he gave to Joseph. He gave to Pharaoh, which Joseph interpreted. That you dreamt about 7 cattle which were fat, and then the lean ones, which are the slim ones, later on came 7 also. But the ones which were lean, which were slim, had to devour those who were fat, had to eat, which is an unnatural way, which is something which was an allegory for you and I to understand. That in the New Testament period, we will nourish from the Old Testament prophecies so that we understand where we are, so that we understand where we are going. This is what God designed the Bible to be like. You and me, we should sit down and enjoy the present truth. You understand? So now, let's go to the 5th stone. We have seen 1st stone, 2nd stone, 3rd stone, 4th stone. Now we know these 4 stones, that the first one was Moses' movement, 2nd one, the early Christian church, and the 3rd is William Miller's First-day Adventist, and the 4th is the Sabbath one under Sister White. But you cannot be saved without the 5th. We need the 5th. With the 5th message, which comes at the 11th hour. Let's hear that one. Yeah. Matthew 20.
Verse 6, the
Next
11th
one,
hour.
yeah.
And about the 11th hour,
About the 11th hour,
he went out and
Right.
found others standing idle,
right?
and said unto them, Why stand ye all idle?
You see, there is a question on these 11th hour callers. That question wasn't there with the 1st and the 3rd hour and the 6th and the 9th hour. groups, they were not questioned. Did you see that? The question is on those who are left with 1 hour, because the full day should be 12 hours. So we are left with 1 hour for us to reach the 12th hour. So those ones have a question which is horrible, because it displays that they are idle. First, they are just, why? Why stand ye idle? They are found without a prophet. Did you understand? They are found without a prophet. Whatever they are doing, they're just in the warm-up like curtain raisers before a major match would play. They are just warming up. There's no goal. Even when there's a goal, it's not taken into account. It is that is curtain raising everywhere. You're curtain raising. You're just in a warm-up. But look at the instructor, the farmer says, why are you idle? Why are you idle? So that's why we understand some of these songs that we sing. Yeah? Where are the reapers? Oh, who will come? Because these are supposed to work for 1 hour. One consecutive hour, just one. Some were working for 3 hours. But these ones, 1 hour, 11th hour caller. Listen to the question. Listen to that. And you also listen to the answer. Listen to that. Yeah.
And about the 11th hour, he went out and found others standing idle. And
They were idle. The Bible is clear on that point. They were, whatever you think you are doing, we have millions there, we have whatever. The Bible clearly tells us that you are idle. Idle. Yeah, you don't have the message of the hour. You are idle. They were idle, these people, idle. Now read on, let's hear.
And saith unto them,
Right?
why stand ye here all day idle?
You see, they were not even sitting, they were standing. Have you seen somebody with nothing to do? The best thing, the best way to be when you have nothing to do is just to sit on a chair, sit down or sit in the lawn, sit and bask in the sun. These were not like that. They were standing idle. What is to stand? Stand. They will tell you that we stand. We are also ready. We are also at the church of God. We've got all the messages. Yet they have nothing. Nothing. And the question actually says, why are you standing idle? Why? You know, why are you standing idle? And the worst thing is that when they were working like that, they thought they were doing something, but they were doing nothing. God actually said they were doing nothing. They are standing idle. Before the 11th hour workers were called, they were idle. The Bible is clear on that point. Don't tell us you are working. As long as you have no fifth stone, that fifth stone, it means whatever you are doing, it's correct. Isaiah 4 says, they were all saying, we will eat our bread and wear our parrot. We only want your name to be called by your name to take away our reproach. Isaiah chapter 4 says you, on verse 1, says that. The Bible on Matthew chapter 20 says, the 11th hour caller were idle. Don't tell us what you are doing, whatever. That's why Christ will tell you in Matthew chapter 7 that go where you are working. It means you are not working with him. In Matthew chapter 7, many shall come and say, let us read that Bible. That's Matthew chapter 7. You should understand that there's people who are working for nothing, just at the last minute. Listen to what Christ said to them in Matthew chapter 7, verse 21. People who think they are doing something when they are doing nothing. They are there in the Bible. When Christ comes, they will come also claiming what they were doing. Listen to that. Matthew chapter 7, verse 21. What does it say? Right? Matthew chapter 7, verse 21. Right.
Not everyone that saith unto me.
Not everyone will say unto me,
Lord,
Lord, Lord.
Yeah. Shall enter into the kingdom of
So
heaven.
that very kingdom, that the parable chapter 20 of Matthew chapter 20, the very kingdom, it says, not everyone will enter that kingdom. Not everyone will say, Lord, Lord. Who's saying, Lord, Lord, will enter that kingdom. But listen to who is going to enter that kingdom.
But he that doeth the will of my Father,
right,
which is in heaven.
Right. Do you understand that Christ's parables in the New Testament never even spoke about that cloud you are talking about? The cloud comes later, after the kingdom has long been established and people have long been saved. Then they are sent to up in the cloud after the 7 last plagues. But before that, Christ was only talking about the kingdom. Check all the parables. Matthew chapter 13, Matthew chapter 25, Matthew, everywhere. Go and check the parable of the kingdom, the parables that Christ was preaching about. They were only mentioning about the kingdom, which is going to be established. I heard someone talking about the kingdom, saying the kingdom is in heaven. The kingdom is going to be established on earth. On earth. So all his parables, when he said, I will be there, I will not take this bread and wine, the Lord's Supper, until we are in the kingdom. Don't even think he's going to take the Lord's Supper, the bread and wine in heaven, because there's no bread and wine in heaven. The bread and wine is on earth. In heaven, it's just the tree of life. You eat the bread and wine on earth. And this is what he promised, that he will take it when he is together in the kingdom. So all his parables were to do with the kingdom. Now here we are being told in Matthew chapter 7, not everyone will inherit that kingdom. Right? What does it say in Matthew chapter 7 there?
Verse 21.
Yeah.
Not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven.
Right?
But he that doeth the will of my Father, which is in heaven.
Right. So it's only those in the stone that were picked by David. Do you have a message coming from the back? Which particularly is the stone? The stone from Moses, the first caller, the stone was the ceremonial system. The stone from the Christian church, we see them still keeping the ceremonial system. The stone from the 6th hour caller, William Miller and Sister White, she preached about the stone in the annual feast, page 537, Patriarchs and Prophets. She was given third angel's message to warn those who won't keep this message of the stone, which is in the back. If any man worship the beast, by what? By keeping the times which were instituted by the beast instead of God's festivals. This is what she was warning you and me. So these were the stones that were given. So obviously, when you are approaching the 11th hour caller, what message do you think they will be given? The message of the 11th hour caller, we find it clearly in Malachi chapter 4, verse 4 to 5. Let's hear that message. Let's hear message. Yeah.
Malachi 4.
Malachi 4. That's the message. Because the 5 calls all had the ceremonial system, whether in antitype or in type. But the ceremonial system was there. They were keeping these appointed times. But here, the 11th hour call, which message then is afforded to be given to the 11th hour call? Let's go to Malachi chapter 4, verse 4 to 5. Let's see.
Remember ye the law of Moses, my servant.
Remember the law of who?
Moses.
The very first hour caller. That's the message of the first call. Remember that first call. That's the very first sentence. First sentence. Remember the first call of Moses. Listen to that.
Which I commanded unto him in Horeb.
Right, which one? Because Moses said several laws. Some of them we see the ceremonial law, which is the animal sacrifice, had been eradicated by the cross. But which one of the ceremonial law then, which was given to Moses, should we remember? Let's hear that.
Which I commanded unto him in Horeb for
which
all
one?
Israel.
Right.
With the statutes
The
and judgments.
statutes and judgments. That's the law of Moses, which we should remember. What are the statutes? The statutes we clearly saw that these are the festivals. Yeah, it says so in Psalm chapter 81, verse 1 to 3. It tells you that the new moon there is a feast too, is a solemn assembly, it is a festival, it is the law of God. We are told clearly that that law of Moses is a statute. So this one, Malachi chapter 4 is saying, remember the law of Moses, which I gave unto in Horeb, which is Mount Sinai. And we have to go and find out whether this law has got these statutes. And because most people will tell you that in Mount Sinai was just given a table of stones with 10 commandments, finish. But I want to know which laws were given to Moses on Mount Sinai or Mount Horeb. Let's hear that. Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 13. Verse 13.
Thou camest down
Right?
also upon Mount Sinai,
Right?
and spakest with them from heaven, and gavest them right judgments,
Right?
and true laws, good statutes and commandments.
Do you see the statutes were given on Mount Sinai? It's not only the 10 Commandments only. The statutes, the judgments, the commandments. So if you just take one, when the verse in Malachi chapter 4 says, remember that law, which one in particular is not even talking about the commandments, because he knows the whole world unanimously accept the commandments, the 10 commandments. Everyone, you check everywhere, they accept. Even in court, they accept 10 commandments. They accept. That's why you hold the Bible. And because all the crimes that are coming are judged according to the 10 commandments. So they are accepted everywhere. There's nothing unique and sinister there about the 10 commandments. But God knows we accept them. He knows there are laws that we don't accept. They're going to be a tug of war in the house of God about that law. The statutes, the festivals, which are the statutes and the judgments. He clearly says it in Malachi chapter 4, verse 4. Remember that law, which one? Of the statutes and judgments. Now, let's go to the next verse on Malachi chapter 4. What is he going to do with these statutes and judgments? Let's hear.
Behold,
Behold,
I will send you Elijah the prophet.
then the 11th hour call is going to be infested with the statutes and judgments. I will send Elijah the prophet.
Before the coming of the great and dreadful day.
The coming of the great and dreadful day. But what is that law going to do to us? Next verse.
And he shall turn
The Lord
the heart
now
of the fathers
will turn the heart of the fathers in heaven
to the children,
to the children,
and the heart of the children to their fathers.
Just this is the only law that unites us with Christ. It unites us. That's why it says, those who follow the Lamb, whithersoever he goeth. What is the Lamb? What unites the followers of Christ and Christ? These are the laws that unite us with Christ. We follow Christ whithersoever he goeth. Now in heaven, they are in a new moon today. That is what it is meant by following Christ whithersoever. The Lamb, whithersoever he goeth. They are in a new moon. Come tomorrow Sabbath. They are in a Sabbath. Come Passover, they're there. Come Tabernacle, they're there. So these are the laws that are making us follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. Whether you like it or not, that's it. So we have seen these 5 stones, all of them. They have the ceremonial system, whether type or antitype. These appointed times are being kept. And that's why God comes to those who are calling themselves the house of God, this and that and that. We are the holy ones, the holy one. Jeremiah chapter 8 verse 7 comes to you and say, they will now say, listen to that, Jeremiah chapter 8. Let's hear what it is. Because it does not pay anything worshiping God without these appointed times. Now let's hear.
Yeah. The stork in heaven. Knoweth her appointed times.
They know these times. Right?
And the turtle and the crane.
Yeah, you see, it's cold weather this time. And where is the noise of the birds? It's gone. Do they know the time of the seasons? When he says, these are the feasts which you shall keep in their seasons. Do the birds, the turtle, the dove, do they know these times? Yes, they do. Listen to that. It's a very painful verse. The stork in heaven, they know the appointed times. Listen to that.
They observe the time of their coming.
They observe that time. Where are they now? They were so full of them in autumn, in summer. They were full of them here. We could hear them from windows everywhere when you are walking, everywhere. But here they are disappeared. Where have they gone? They know the appointed times. Listen to that.
But my people
who brag to say they know me,
know not the judgment of the Lord.
They don't know this time. This is the law which judges them. This is the judgment law of the appointed time. This is what is going. When he says, many shall come in my name and say, we were worshiping you, I will tell them clearly. Why? Because they did not know the appointed times. They were surpassed by the turtle dove, the crane, All of them, they knew God's festivals. They knew God's seasons. They knew that. But my people who brag everywhere telling people they know me because of only one law, which is the Ten Commandments. They don't even know the other law, which are the festivals, which was tampered with in the dark, which made the period to be called a dark ages. It is dark because when that law is tampered with of the festivals, it becomes dark. That's why it says when the midnight called, it was in the midnight. What is midnight? When it is dark. What causes it to be dark? These festivals have been trodden over. Then the world becomes dark. And the house of God becomes dark. Without these laws, it's darkened. Do you understand? When Moses was coming from the Mount Sinai, after spending 40 days, 40 nights there, he was bright. What was brightening him? These laws brightened Moses. Did you understand? Now it says, all the birds, they know this law of appointed times. But my children, and for sure, it's so sad and it's so painful to see the children of God going to wrong times of camp meetings. It's so painful. They don't understand Jeremiah chapter 8, verse 7. God saying they are surpassed by the birds, the turtle, the crane. They know these times, but my children, they go in wrong times for camp meeting and sitting during broad daylight saying, we are having Lord's Supper. And it's weird, supper is at night. Go to anyone, even the children at school, they say supper is at night. But God is saying, my children do not know that supper is at night. They say supper is during broad daylight. That's what God is complaining. And what does he say in verse 20? Listen to that.
Verse 20. The harvest is past.
They will say, the harvest is past.
The summer is ended.
They did not know it was harvesting. The summer is ended. These are the seasons.
And we are not saved.
And they were not saved. What will cause them not to be saved? The appointed times. The appointed times. How can you follow God and say, I follow God without his appointed times? They have to, you follow God with his appointed times, his laws. Without these laws, you cannot break and say, I'm following God. And God has put them now in the sealing time. In the sealing time, these are the laws sealing the people. That's why we say, this is a sealing message. The present truth is going to seal the 144,000 because the bulk will refuse. The bulk will refuse. Don't never mind those who refuse. The bulk will be, you fight for your life because the 144,000 will be saved. They will be saved. Right? So we are seeing now the 11th hour is also being given a ceremonial law, which are these appointed times, which clearly says, remember the law of Moses, that's why we see it in 475 testimonies to ministers. Go to that Sister White, who also was our last prophet, we say it's our last prophet, but she's professing there's still another prophet coming. After reading Malachi chapter 4, she also confirms that. Let's hear what she says after that. Malachi 4 verse 4. Now it says what? Prophecy.
Prophecy must be fulfilled.
Right?
The Lord says, behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
She has repeated that same verse in Malachi 4 verse 4. Now, what does she say about it? Listen to that.
Somebody is to come.
Somebody. You see? Somebody. Did you understand? She's not talking about a group. She's talking about a person. Somebody, right?
Is to come.
Is to come.
In the spirit and power of Elijah.
Power of Elijah. Somebody comes in the spirit and power of Elijah. Are we expecting somebody in the 11th hour call? Are we? Somebody is to come to do that job. Let's see. Let's hear.
And when he appears,
and when that person appears,
men may say, you are too earnest.
Is there somebody like that? That we think even when that person casts any post, even on Facebook, or you just say, no, I'm not going to comment. This one, I'm not going to comment. Is there somebody like that? Yes. With no likes? Yes. But how many likes are there in rubbish things? Plenty. But there's somebody who, even the likes, They are difficult to be given because it's somebody who people will despise and say you are too honest, you don't interpret the scriptures right, you whatever, you offshoot, you satanic, you whatever name. It is in the prophecy. It is prescribed that this is what people will say. Somebody will come who they will say, you are too earnest, you are too what? Sister White is confirmed. Dear brethren, the 11th hour call is led by somebody who is worth despised. But God will be using that person. Did you expect somebody who come and you nod and say, yes, that won't come? God has known that people follow him in hypocrisy. So he's looking for genuineness of character. The people who are genuine will acknowledge where people say, it can't be, it can't be, it can't be. But those who are genuine will hear the voice of a shepherd. The shepherd voice, God says, my voice, my sheep, they know my voice. My voice is well known by the sheep. So it's only identified by the voice, like it was with Jacob. That person is a Jacob of a time, because Jacob, the father Isaac said, yes, the voice is Jacob. But what was outside? No. The skin outside was not, the voice was Jacob's voice, but the skin outside has been stolen from Esau. But the voice was Jacob one. So he actually identified that those living in the last time will identify the message by hearing the voice, but not seeing what is outside. Yeah. But hearing the voice, the sheep know it, the voice. Did you understand? They understand that this is a voice of a shepherd. This is a voice of a man or a woman sent from God. This is the voice, not this is the attire, this is the body parts, or this is whatever, but the voice. The voice is the one that they discern. This is what the 144,000 won't be deceived. But they are the very elect, but won't be deceived because they discern the voice. But if you can't discern the voice, and you are busy hunting whether it's a male or female or whether it's what, you will lose out in the time of the 11th hour call. But let's hear more. Let's hear more from the Bible, because there's more we can say than the Bible can say. So we want the Bible to say more while we listen, isn't it? Now I'll take you to the book of Isaiah. The book of Isaiah is a prophecy of how that person, which is Elijah, or who Sister White is saying somebody is going to be, how that person comes into play in the time of the judgment of the living. We would like to hear that from the book of Isaiah chapter 41. Isaiah chapter 41. Want to study that prophecy from the first, just start from wherever you want, which is verse 1, which is the, listen to that, what God introduces that topic with. We are trying to identify where this person could be, how this person comes into play. This is what God gives us. Listen, the book of Isaiah, right? Let's see, verse 1.
Keep silence.
Keep silent. The first thing is when you are approaching the Elijah of the time, keep silent. You are better off saving yourself by keeping silent. Because there's so many critics, we have been told about many critics who come and say, you are too earnest. Says, keep silent. Keep silent. Listen to that. Keep silence.
Keep silence before me.
Right?
O islands, and let the people renew their strength.
Now, which are these islands? Some people do not know they are in the island. You have continents and islands. Which are islands? People are in islands everywhere. They're saying if there is water around you, you're in the island, keep silent. In the island, keep silent. Now let's hear more. Let them.
Let them come near.
The people come instead. See your mouth? Come near. Right, listen.
Then let them speak.
And then let them speak after they come near. Listen to that.
Let us come near together to judgment.
That person now is declaring judgment, because we said, remember the law of Moses, which I gave, with the statutes and judgment. So that person is coming to declare judgment. You understand? Judgment, because once you don't receive that message of the 11th hour call, you have been judged. Let that person declare judgment. Let's hear more. Verse 2, listen to verse 2 clearly. Listen to that.
Who raised up the righteous man from the east?
Right, that person has to do with the keeping of the feasts from the east. You remember when we were dealing about in Revelation chapter 7, where the angel was coming from the east. Now, the person has got the message from the east. It was for us to keep the feast 3 times a year in the east. Do you understand? So now the big question which God has inscribed in the Bible said, who has raised up the righteous man from the east? Did you hear? Some will say, oh, it's talking about Christ. Christ was in the east. But we'll find out as we go along with that to see what God is actually talking about. He's not talking about Christ now. He's talking about a person raised out of the east. And you're telling people that there is no prophet, there is no other. But what about Isaiah 41, which says there is a righteous person raised out of the east? Now, let's hear more.
Let us come near together to judgment. Who raised up the righteous man from the east?
Who
called
did that?
him?
That's what God says when he has raised somebody. He says, who did it? Who did it? Asking himself. You understand? He's asking himself. He said, who raised this man? Who raised him? Yeah? When he said about the rod message, he says, who has raised the rod? Yeah? Who raised the rod? Who raised it? You understand? When he has done something, he asks himself the question that I've done it. You understand? I've done it. Who raised this person out of the east? Who raised? Now, but let's hear more.
Called his foot. Okay, let me start it. Right. Who raised up the righteous man from the east?
Right.
Called him to his foot, gave the nations before him, and made him rule over kings.
Who did that? Who did raise that person? Called him and stand on the feet. Meaning, when you are standing on the feet, what is it? You remember when you are talking about Daniel, that even the lion stood on his feet. The lion, which he was talking about, the kings of the Babylonian Empire. The lion, or also the bear, stood on his feet. So it means he has put somebody as a king. Yeah, we are talking somebody who is a king before, called him to his foot, gave the nations before him. Says all these nations, you preach a gospel, it will perfuse all these nations. It will go into every nation. That one, use BSM TV to proclaim the message to go into all nations. God has given that person. Do you understand? It's an interesting prophecy. Listen to that. Let's hear. Finish the verse.
He gave them as the dust to his sword.
Right.
And as driven stubble to his bow.
Right. He has given that person, raised that person, given them nations. That person has been given nations. He's saying every nation, and also he says they've been given as the dust to his sword. The sword is the mouth, is the word, the gospel in the mouth. It's a sword. God has given that man, raised that man, and given the gospel, which is a sword. And these men from different nations come as the dust when they listen to the sword. It's a nice prophecy, isn't it? Very interesting. You can read it at night and have a good night. Sleep well. You understand? Now let's hear.
He pursued them.
Right?
And passed safely.
He pursued them. The gospel passes safely where there were locks. You know, remember previously people were being told, don't preach to our members. Don't people are being dulled. You know, these are dulls. When you go and stop someone reading with somebody, you're actually abusing his right. Because that right, everyone has got a right to read or to study with anyone. But do not dull people, because those are dulls. Yeah, deprivation of liberty. People are at liberty to read. So people were being dulled until God had to make sure that there is what we call online messages. Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. It is to split the dolls. Everyone now can listen whether you like it or not. You meet them in church, but what they're studying in the middle of the week, you don't understand. So this God has given as a liberty so that the people who are being dulled are released. This is what he did. So here he says, he pursued them and passed safely. You see, the internet, it passes safely into your room, into your house. Yeah, whether it be it, the children say, my children, you don't listen to present truth, you don't do anything to your children, but the internet is going straight to your child, straight, because you cannot dull them. They have a right to read, they have a right to study the Bible, they have a right to study any way they like. You understand? So here he's saying, even he pursued them and passed safely, even by the way that he had not gone with his feet. Did you hear that in verse 3? Where the internet goes, it goes straight where your feet has never stepped. That's the verse. Read the verse properly, verse 3. Yeah. Read it properly. That's what the internet does. This BSM TV is known all over where our feet have not even stepped. That's verse 3. Now read properly.
He pursued them and passed safely, even by the way that he had not gone with his feet.
This is what he does. That's how the message is preached in the 11th hour call. You understand? God has made the internet to help his 11th hour call. The 11th hour call and the internet is, the YouTube everywhere is diffusing everywhere, even where your feet will never step. Do you understand? Now, let's read the next verse.
Who hath wrought and done it?
Who did this? Who has wrought and done it? Did you hear?
Calling the generations from the beginning.
Right?
I, the Lord, the first with the last, I am he.
I'm he. So he's saying it's him who has done it. Whether you like it or not, he has done it. You cannot silence that message. You try to silence it, it will be worse off. He said the battle with error only helps spread the error. If you think it is error, you try to battle with it, it will only spread. You understand? That's what the devil saw when they were persecuting those people who were fighting against the times and laws where they be changed. They said, no. These people are dying. Their blood is becoming seed. So let's change tactics and be friendly with them. That's where the Christianity went. Because they now started to have a new tactic of befriending those people who were running away from persecution. And then the persecution subsided. And why? What happened? People started to compromise. And what happened until today? They are compromising. They are hypocrites who pretend to be loving God when they love nothing about God. But God raises the righteous man from the east and gives aid of internet to diffuse wherever you think you can dull the people, you can make the people deprived. The internet will come in and make sure God who created that person will be in charge of his spiritual welfare. Yeah, there's no one in charge of the spiritual welfare of somebody. You have no right to go into the space of somebody's rights. You don't have a right at all. Right? You can disfellowship people in the churches, but do not have a right to say, don't read it, don't. That don't is a door. Don't deprive people. But let them have a freedom of choice. Let them have a freedom to choose what is right to the law and to the testimony. That's how people should be. That's not dulling people so that they continue serving you and paying you money so that you go after your lovers that give you bread. That's all you are doing that for. But when it is for salvation, it's individual. Freedom of right to choose. Everything is free. But if you see people dulling, there's something they are getting out of it. That's what they are dulling people for, so that they continue to have welfare coming to them. Because once people know the truth, they will not dilly-dally with error. they can't dilly-dally with error. The people can't dilly-dally with error because that's tossing your salvation. They work to their salvation. They know what is truth and they will do what is truth. Now here we are saying on verse, who had done it? Says, I am he that did it. Verse 5, right?
Verse 5. The isles
Right?
saw it
And the
and
isles.
feared.
Who are these isles? Those countries surrounded by water. They saw it. They saw it. And what?
And feared.
Yeah.
The
and
ends of the earth were afraid.
the
drew
end. So
near
this
and came.
happened in the end of the earth. They see it. They saw it. They saw that person raised from the east, right?
They helped everyone, his neighbor, and everyone said to his brother, Be of good courage.
Everyone said, be of good courage, be of good courage, be of good. The isles have also accommodated the men from the east. The isles also said, be of good courage, be good to people, to be good to foreigners, to be good to whatever. All that's the goodness God is talking about. Now here, verse 6. Verse 7.
So the carpenter encouraged the goldsmith, and he that smootheth with the hammer, him that smote the anvil,
Right.
saying, It is ready for the soldering, and he fastened it with nails, that
Right.
it should not be moved.
Right. So verse 8.
But thou,
But
Israel,
thou, Israel.
art
You
my
see, he's
servant.
talking about a person. You see in verse 8, thou, that person raised from the east, thou, Israel, art my servant. He's talking about one person. Yeah, that's the prophet of the hour. Thou, Israel, art my servant. Listen to that. Finish the whole verse.
Jacob,
Jacob.
whom I have chosen,
Right.
the seed of Abraham, my friend.
Right. There's one he chose in the last day. That person accommodated by the isles. They spoke good about that person and say, oh, let's accommodate this person. And coming from the east, they saw it. The isles, they saw it. Which island is that? Which saw that person, and God called that person Jacob. You understand? It says, Jacob, the person is called Israel, art my servant. Jacob, who I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my friend. That person comes exactly from Abraham, from Jacob. And God says, is the person, is the son or daughter of Abraham, his friend. So if somebody is a son of your friend, automatically is your friend. Do you understand? Automatically that person becomes your friend. So God has raised a friend who is daughter or son of his friend Abraham. Who we saw in Galatians chapter 3 verse 29, it says, if ye be Christ. So that person should be a Christian. But Abraham's daughter or Abraham's son, who is God's friend, says, I've raised him. I've raised him. Did you see Isaiah chapter 41? You want to hop in the cloud without the Old Testament prophecies? No, that one you can't do that. You can't afford to do that. Because no cloud, you won't even pass the force of gravity, because this one has to sanctify you so that the force of gravity has no issue with you. Do you understand? But here, let's hear. Thou, verse 9.
Thou, whom I have taken from the ends of the earth.
Now, he's now saying, this servant I have taken from the ends of the earth, who is supposed to proclaim the 11th hour call. Listen to that.
And called thee from the chief men thereof, and said unto thee, Thou art my servant.
Do you see that person has been called? And God is saying, thou art my servant. I've called you from the end of the world. No, was not there in the time of Sister White, was not there in the time of William Miller, was not there in the time of Moses or the Christians, or it was not there in 1950 when Sister White left it and handed over to Brother Hotef and who handed over to Brother Roden and Sister Roden. That person has been raised. Did you understand? And that person should be alive, being the forerunner of the 11th hour call. Did you understand? Now let's hear that person. I have taken the ends of the earth. Now finish that verse. Mhm.
Thou art my servant.
Mhm.
I have chosen thee, and not cast thee away.
Right?
Fear thou not,
You,
for I
the
am.
very first injunction which he said to Joshua, said, fear not, fear not. Why? Because there's a tendency to, there are giants, spiritual giants who might scare you. There are people who think they are spiritual giants, they've got PhD, they've got theology, they've got this, they are giants in the things of God. God says to that person, to his prophet of the hour, fear not,
Fear not.
fear not. Now let's hear.
Fear thou not, for I am with thee.
Right.
Be not dismayed.
Whether it was a short person or a person who you cannot consider to be a person, as long as that person is God on his side, that person is not scared. That person is not scared. Now listen to that.
For I am thy God.
I am thy God.
I will,
Fear not.
I will strengthen thee.
Right?
Yea, I will help thee. Yea, I will uphold thee
Right.
with the right hand of my righteousness.
Right? Do you see that person is fully invested with the power of God? God says, fear thee, I am on your side. I will do all these things. Strengthen thee. I will, thou whom I have taken from the ends of the earth, and called thee from the chief men, therefore, and said unto thee, thou art my servant. I have chosen thee and not cast thee away. Fear not, thou. That's the injunction to the prophet. Fear not, for I am with thee. Be not dismayed, for I am thy God. I will strengthen thee. Yea, I will keep you. Yea, I will uphold thee with the right hand of my righteousness. Do you see we have got a terrible person in the last time for the 11th hour call? That person who is invested with all this power that God has said, I've raised that person. I've raised that person from the message from the east, which is Revelation 7 verse 2. Coming from the east, we saw there are two angels who say, hold till we have sealed. The first one sealed the New Jerusalem, and then the other one sealed the Jesus' new name. Now raised somebody who has finished reading all these 5 angels' messages. That's the 5 stars, the stones in the bag. And so the stones also in the bag is that person is on the 11th hour call, or on the 5th stone which David picked and slew Goliath with the 5th stone. You understand? The message of the fifth stone is amazing, brethren. It's amazing, and it calls for your wisdom and for my wisdom in the last days, so that we understand it. That's why we have 5 hands here, 5 fingers here, and 5 fingers on the left and right. Why? 5 for the message of 5 messages in the Bible, in the bag, and then 5 or the 5 angels' messages in the bag. You understand? All this is 5. Would you ask God? You could have made 3 hands. 3 fingers. He could have made 3 fingers, or he could have made 6 fingers or 7 fingers. But he chose 5. Why? Who told him to say 5 fingers and 5 fingers, even to the toes? 5 toes and 5 toes. Who made that discussion with God? Who made that discussion with God? But we are talking here about the organization of the parliament in heaven. You understand how they organize the things? It's so interesting. You can spend the whole day and hop in the ceiling there and touch it and say, God, why did you make me believe this? Why do you make me have all this intelligence to understand your word? Do you understand? Not to tell the children, oh, he picked the 5 stones, and the child is saving at a bedtime story and sleeping, sleeping with the 5 stones without even knowing what they were standing for. You understand? Now we are in the spiritual bonds. We're not drinking milk. We are drinking bonds, brethren. These are bonds for us to understand. Now, I don't know whether I'm clear with that, because I'm actually higher than what I believe to be, because I'm higher in excitement about this story, because whatever is going to come next there in that chapter we are reading, it's really interesting. Let's read and finish. And we went to verse 10.
Verse 11 now.
Verse 11 now. Yeah.
Behold,
Behold.
all they that were incensed against thee.
There are people who are incensed against thee, who did not want the present truth. There are people who are incensed against thee. You remember that Sister White said, the message of the hour, the Elijah who is going to be raised. The people will say, you're too earnest. You don't interpret the spirit. You whatever. They were incensed against Elijah. You understand? Now listen to that. Behold,
all they that were incensed against thee shall be ashamed
they will be
and
ashamed
confounded.
to find out it's the very Elijah of the hour who they were fighting. They will be ashamed when the kingdom is established there, and when they see David, the very David with the righteous branch in the kingdom, they will be ashamed. They will be ashamed to say, what were we doing to that person, the message of the 11th hour, who is ushering in the kingdom? In the parable of Matthew chapter 20, the parable is for the kingdom. The 11th hour worked for 1 hour, but there was a messenger specially selected by God who said, who raised it? Who raised this messenger from the east? Who raised it? And he invested with all this power to usher the kingdom, to usher the 144,000 into the kingdom. You understand? This is the message of the hour that we want. Now listen to that. Behold, those who hated you, who kicked you out from the disfellowship from their midst, they will be ashamed. They will be ashamed. This is what is said. Listen to that.
Behold, all they that were incensed against thee shall be ashamed and confounded.
Right?
They shall be as nothing, and they that strive with thee shall perish.
Listen to that. Unless they repent. God is saying they will perish. They will perish unless they repent. Because they were wrestling against the messenger of the hour, which God alone says, who has raised that person? Who has raised it? It's not somebody that we sit down and vote for. This person is not voted by anybody. It's voted by God and his angels alone. This is the person that only God knows the appointment of that person. It's not somebody who you sit and say, where are your certificates? Where are your degrees? Where did you train? You understand? Now listen to that. In verse 12, did you say, Thou
shalt seek them,
right?
And shalt not find them,
right?
Even them that contended with thee. They that war against thee
so I said,
shall
when
be
you're
as
in the
nothing.
kingdom, you look for those people who were kicking you out of their midst, who were saying you are too earnest, you are too what? You look, you won't find them. God says you won't find them. You won't find them. He's talking about the prophet of the hour. You won't find them. You look for them, they will all perish. You won't find them. Listen to that. Let's verse 13.
For I, the Lord thy God, will hold thy right hand.
Because I am holding your right hand.
Saying unto thee,
right?
Fear not,
right?
I will help thee.
There's nothing so strong as the right hand. If you are right-handed, unless those who are left-handed, they have their strength on the left. But if you are right-handed, like me, if somebody holds my right hand, I become strong. God is actually saying my right hand is what God will hold. The servant of the hour will have God's right hand on his or her right hand. Do you understand? Because God is saying, I will be moving with you. I will be moving with you. You will be on my right hand. I will be holding your right hand. Now let's hear more.
Fear not.
Fear not.
Thou worm Jacob.
You are a worm of Jacob. So it's a descendant of Jacob. Do you understand?
And ye men of Israel.
Right?
I will help thee, saith the Lord. And thy Redeemer, the Holy One of Israel.
Right.
Behold, I will make thee a new sharp threshing instrument.
Instead, what I will do when I'm holding your right hand, I will make you a sharp threshing instrument, so that when you thresh, when you preach that gospel, it's like a threshing instrument. It comes clear and simple to everyone that you will understand it. Do you understand? Now listen to that.
I will make thee a new sharp threshing instrument, having teeth.
Right?
Thou shalt thresh the mountains.
The mountains are churches. The church, the house of God, you will thresh it like boop, boop, boop. That's the gospel. That's what it does. God has promised that by holding the right hand of the prophet, he will thresh the mountains. He will thresh the mountains. You understand? Now let's hear more.
And beat them small.
And beat them small. Yeah.
And shalt make the hills as chaff.
And also the hills, the small groups that also try that they will be chaff. Do you understand? Let's hear more.
Thou shalt fan them.
And also fan them. This is what the gospel does. It beats, it thrashes, and fans as well. You understand?
Thou shalt fan them.
Right?
And the wind shall carry them away.
All the chaff will go. Will be, because that gospel will create a shaking. Someone saying that's right. Someone saying no. Someone said that's right. So that will create a shaking. And those who will be shaken will be shaken. Let them be shaken. You know, when you shake the tree, all the leaves that are not hanging onto the tree, that are already dead, they will be shaken out. The tree will remain with the green leaves, which are still strong. That gospel will do that. Do you understand? Now, let's hear.
And the whirlwind shall scatter them.
Right?
And thou shalt rejoice in the Lord. And thou shalt rejoice in the Lord,
right?
And shalt glory in the Holy One of Israel.
You will glory in the Holy One of Israel. Because that's what the message does. It gives you all the food, nourishment that you need. When you understand these prophecies and the scriptures and things are working your way, you will enjoy and glorify the name of God. Now let's hear more.
When the poor
When
and
the poor and needy seek water, where do they find the water?
And there is none.
There is none.
And their tongue faileth for thirst. I, the Lord, will hear them.
Right.
And I, the God of Israel, will not forsake them.
Right.
I will open rivers in high places and fountains in the midst of valleys. I will make the wilderness a pool of water and the dry land springs of water.
Right. It will also feed those who are poor in spirit. Those who are poor in spirit will understand. Those who are thirsty will understand from the gospel. It will nourish and quench the thirst every way, all over, whether high or low. The gospel given to the 11th hour call will do that. That's what we call the harvest message as well. So this 11th hour call, you see, that's why when he pays them, he says, pay those who worked 1 hour. The last workers were paid first. You understand why they are paid first? This is what the threshing instrument or the prophet of the hour, of the Elijah of the time will be doing. And it's more than all these other stones. They worked so hard. The movement of Moses was so hard. It was so hard. But with us, we have now we have been supported by internet, by Facebook, by YouTube. We have been supported by all these, that the Spirit of Prophecy volumes online, Spirit of Prophecy, you Google them. You are not even buying them from these people who are greedy for money, but you are just going, Googling and understanding what you want. And without even expending money, it's all free, given freely. For freely you'll be saved. This is what the gospel of the 11th hour call is all about. You understand? Now let's hear verse 18. Did you finish verse 17? You see this prophecy of Isaiah 41. It's so nice. It's so interesting if you read it. But let's hear. We haven't exhausted it. It's a very short chapter. Verse 17.
Verse 19.
Where are you?
19.
19. Okay.
I will plant in the wilderness the cedar,
Listen.
the shittah tree,
Right?
and the myrtle and the oil tree. I will set in the desert the fir tree and the pine and the box tree together.
Right?
That they may see and know and consider and understand together that the hand of the Lord hath done this, and the Holy One of Israel hath created it.
This is what the gospel of the 11th hour call will do. This is what God says, I will do in a way that they will see that the Lord has done it. Now let's hear verse 20.
That they may see and know and consider and understand together that the hand of the Lord hath done this, and the Holy One of Israel hath created it.
Right?
Produce your cause, saith the Lord.
Right?
Bring forth your strong reasons, saith the King of Jacob.
Right?
Let them bring them forth, and shew us what shall happen. Let them shew the former things, what they be, that we may consider them and know the later end of them.
So because the gospel will show exactly that it is an antitype from the former things.
Yeah.
For if you cannot identify what you are saying from what has happened before, if it is not if it hasn't not happened before, then it means it's a lie. But we are talking of the Exodus, second Exodus. Then if you want to know it is true, produce the previous one. We show you the first Exodus. Then there is a truth there. So any gospel which has no former things is not correct. Right, let's hear more.
Shew the things
Show the things.
that are to come hereafter, that we may know that ye are gods. Ye are, do good or do evil, that we may be dismayed and behold it there together. Behold, ye are of nothing, and your work of naught. An abomination is he that chooseth you.
Anyone who chooses anyone who cannot produce what he is saying, who cannot say the type of what you are saying, that person is lying. And anyone who chooses that person is chosen abomination. But what about verse 25? Let's pay an ear to 25. Yeah? I have
raised up one from the north.
Right. That's where I'm interested. Now, initially, the very first verse was, I have raised one from the east. And then why then that person is found also in the north? You know the compass very well. That when he's saying south, there are countries in the south. When he says east, there are countries in the east. When he says north, there are countries in the north. When he says west, there are countries in the west. So from the compass, we know now God is not talking about east, he's talking about north. Now he says in verse 25, I have raised, repeat that one.
I have raised up one from the north.
Right, that person is in the north. But we have seen that was raised from the east. Right, and what?
And he shall come.
That person shall come.
From the rising of the sun.
Right?
Shall he call upon my name.
From the rising of the sun, that person will call God's name.
And he shall come upon princes as upon mortar, and as the potter treadeth the clay.
How does that person go to the north? When we tell you exactly how this person, that Elijah comes and then happens now to be in the north, but was raised from the east, all this becomes confusing if you do not understand. But I think for us to understand, yeah, let's go to Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 45. Let's hear, how does that person come then to be in the north? Because that person there, you find now, is not talking about the east, and is not talking about the north. It's talking about the south. Let's hear that.
Moreover,
Moreover,
the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face toward the south.
Now he's talking about the south. So when you're talking about south, which are these countries from the south? Because the east was Jerusalem. The north is countries in Europe. And then the south is countries in South Africa, Zimbabwe. Those are south. Now we are hearing that there is a message dropped to the south. Right? So we know these countries where they are. Right? Listen to that one. Let's hear. Verse 45.
45. Oh, son of man, set thy face toward the south.
Right?
And drop thy word toward the south.
So there was a word which was dropped in the south.
Yeah.
That, I think, that word was selecting the prophet. Did you see?
Yeah.
Because when the word goes through a prophet. So the prophet was raised by a word or a message which went to a prophet while the prophet was in the south. Did you understand? Now, the only message that I understand which was in the south in my time was the message to kneel in church. Yeah, the kneelers there, it was in the south. Nowhere else have I heard it. It was more there, and the people were even cast out from the churches in the south. There was a word with somebody there. God raised there a messenger with the word and gave the word in the south. This is how the word goes to a messenger, isn't it? Now let's hear what happens to this message. We are in the judgment of the living, right? In the 11th hour call. What happened?
And prophesy against the forest of the south field.
So, because when you go to the south, in the countries in the south, it's heavily infested with forests. That's why there are no deserts. There are no deserts in the south. There are forests. But what is a forest? Forest has got trees. And what are trees? In Nebuchadnezzar's time, in Daniel chapter 4, you find Nebuchadnezzar was a tree. He's portraying himself as a cut tree. So the forest, the message was sent to, and Nebuchadnezzar, being a tree, was a leader, was sent to a prophet who prophesied to the trees or to the leaders. Right? And what did the leaders do? They did not accept that message. This is what is being said by Ezekiel chapter 20. Let's hear more. Let's hear more.
And say to the forest of the south,
Right?
hear the word of the Lord.
He prophesies to the leaders in the south. Hear the word. Hear the word. Yeah? Did you actually see this person in the south? Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Right? And what?
Thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will
Right.
kindle a fire in
And
thee.
God says, behold, I'll kindle a fire. And that message was a fire kindled by the Lord himself. Right, listen to that.
I will kindle a fire in thee, and every dry tree, the flaming flame, shall not be quenched.
Every dry tree, every flaming, they won't be quenched. But let's hear more.
And all faces from the south, and all faces from the south to the north shall be burnt therein.
Why south to the north? All faces shall be bent from the south to the north. If they are bent, it means the message. You remember the Exodus movement when it was traveling from Egypt to Canaan. Rahab, to these 12 spies, said to them, we know God is with you. For every nation, when they hear about you, they faint. Their faces gather paleness. So this message was sent by God through a messenger to the south, and made them also, the faces were pale. They couldn't solve this person. The only way out was to kick this person out. Right? And what? Read on.
And all flesh shall see that I, the Lord, hath kindled it. It shall not be quenched.
Right?
Then said I, our Lord God.
If you see people casting out members in the church with a message, they have failed to quench the message. They know it is true, and we have no verse to stop the message. The only way out is to kick them out and remain in darkness and remain fooling the people in darkness. That's the only way out. So here God is saying, I've kindled this fire, and that fire was not quenched. Instead, people were kicked out. Right? Yeah. Let it burn outside where we are not there. Let this fire go and burn outside. We remain saying there is peace and safety. Right? Let's hear more.
And said to the then said I, our Lord God,
right?
They say of me, doth he not speak parables?
Right. This is a parable. It's in Ezekiel chapter 20, verse 45. But let's hear it more clearer in Good News Version. Just go to Good News Version and let's hear more clearer, because this is how God raised this messenger, which in Isaiah chapter 41 it says, I've raised from the east, and that person now is in the north. But we are seeing that very person, how the person was raised from the south. And he says, was given a message which destroyed the trees there where they fainted, the trees being leaders. You understand? Now let's hear more.
The Lord said to me, mortal man, he said,
right.
Look towards the south.
Look towards the south.
Speak against the south and prophesy.
Speak against the prophet. So the message was sent to the south. Why? Because traditionally the kneeling was common there. Do you understand? Traditionally they kneel. Right? Yes, they do. Traditionally, so God did not give us a message that we don't know by culture. But he was raising a message. So he had to choose a message which is commonly practiced in the custom of those in the south. Right? For if he did in other places where that custom wasn't there, it was going to be unfair. But it is only fair to that custom which is there, which makes people think they are being reverent. Yeah. When you are in the South, what they do, they kneel down when they give you a cup of water. They kneel down when they give you a meal of food, and they kneel down. So that is a custom which is accepted. So God picked on that custom which is accepted, so that He sees who is His and who is not. Yeah, that's what He did. Now let's hear to the Good News Version. Yeah.
Mortal man,
He
said, look towards the south.
Look toward the south.
Speak against the south and prophesy against the forest of the south.
So the servant was told to prophesy against the forest of the south, right?
Tell the southern forest
To
hear what the sovereign Lord is saying.
To hear what God said, because there was a clear "Thus saith the Lord" from that message. It was from God.
Look,
Look,
I am starting a fire,
God says, look, I'm starting a fire.
and it will burn up
So-
every tree.
He was raising a messenger there to pray. It will burn the what?
Every tree.
Every tree, right? Everyone heard it. And what?
Every tree in you, whether green or dry.
Whether it's green or dry, whether it's inspired or not inspired, every leader there of the church,
Nothing will be able to put it out.
no one will be able to put it out, which
It
is true, right?
It will spread from the south to the north.
That's it. So we now know why that message has to come from the north. It spread from the south to the north. Now where is it? To the north, and then it says, I've raised one from the east. That person has got messages from the east. So you understand now the Bible, these prophecies. You should understand these prophecies clearly when things are happening. You know that here, King Darius was told by the Israelites that he was written in the Bible. And it was a good thing about him. Do you know what he did? He had to send Israel not to pay tax. Because of that revelation that I did not know was in the Bible. I did not know in the Bible. You know, even when we are talking about all these beasts and whatever, they are in the Bible. Once they will know. That's why God writes them in parables, so that they don't understand. Because if they are powerful, they'll slit the Bible and people won't be allowed to read the Bible. So God conceals and uses parable and uses all these prophecies so that we understand what He's talking to us about. But when we are talking about the judgment of the living, judgment of the living, which God is saying, we are saying He picked the 5 stones. And these 5 stones were standing in for 5 timely messages in the Bible. One early morning, the other 3rd hour, the other 6th hour, the other 9th hour, and the 11th hour is the one that we spend more time on, so that you understand, because we are all in this generation going to be one in the 11th hour call or be lost. It's either we are in the 11th hour call or we are going to be lost. So it's up to you to choose. But there's no willy-nilly. We have got to be. We were found idle. So whoever is there, whether we have a beautiful choir or anything, as long as you don't have this message, which all these stones, the 5 stones, had, they had a ceremonial system, whether anti-type or type. They had. In the Christian era, they had no lamps, but they're still keeping these appointed times. They have them. When whatever you are practicing does not have these 5 stones, you can't kill Goliath. You can't kill Goliath. Goliath was killed by 1 stone, which was picked, which was the 11th hour call. It's supposed to hit Goliath. The mark of the beast and its image will be hit by the 11th hour call. That one is the 5 stones. The message of the 5 stones is you and I. We've got to fortify ourselves in the last message of the hour. When God says, pay this 11th hour caller first, we then will understand. So this today, we just understood more about the 5 stones. That was our topic. It was just on the 5 stones. But when we continue tomorrow, it's still in the judgment of the living, in another version, in a different version, so that we understand what God has in store for us. using these prophecies which are lying idle, because people are not even reading them. That's why they're asked, why are you idle? Because they're not reading Isaiah 41. They're not reading Ezekiel's prophet. They're not reading all these Joel's prophets. They are idle. But you and I, we should be engaged in the work of the 11th hour call. You enjoy and be sanctified and be sealed to be in the kingdom. May God bless you. When you are understanding all this, happy are ye.